Alright, so a lot of people tease me about my dead friends. Like, it's pretty screwed up. Starting a year before Natalie was killed, I used the techniques they teach you as a kid to deal with bullies. You go to... First, you try to talk to them. If you're being bullied over a rumor, you go to the source of that rumor and you ask them to stop. If that doesn't work, then you go to an authority figure, like the police or teachers or your parents. If that doesn't work, then you try to walk in pairs. Be with someone at all points in time. That way those people can verify the bullying. And that's the thing, is that a lot of people can verify the bullying and did verify the bullying. There's a Natalie Bollinger group that I was given possession of from Katie Cahill. And it's got a lot of bullying in it. There's a lot of the bullies that were picking on me that I complained to Facebook. And here's the thing. Every step of the way I tried to do the right thing over and over and over again. Do what it is that you're supposed to do when it comes to taking care of bullies. But people kept on not listening, and whenever the police did something wrong, they would just transfer me to another jurisdiction. There are hospitals in Boulder County that I could have been taken to, where I could have had access to a police officer to take my report. They made sure that that didn't happen. Now, the part in the story that I'm at is right before 4th of July. Molly Smith, I hadn't seen her at work yet, and I really needed someone to go in with me. I had saved a lot of evidence on a computer that ended up with a busted hard drive, and Jen Beebe can verify that too. She's the one who was helping me to get it fixed. We had to send it into HP. And when I got it back, I literally had to start all over again on recollecting all of that evidence that I had collected. And I've had to do that several times. So the day Jen Beebe had me sent there, there was a lot going on. I was overwhelmed. I had already gone to the county prosecutor trying to get him to do something. When they took me to the mental hospital in Scottsbluff, they kept me for less than 24 hours on a 72-hour hold. They had one of the people who was there, he assaulted me, and they wanted to put drugs in me. I wouldn't let them. Those drugs are terrible. And I needed a police officer to take my report, and that's literally what I had Jen Beebe for. Now, she was my caseworker. I need to be able to go to appointments to see her so that I can get this stuff done, but I'm broke and I don't have a vehicle, and the closest that she can meet me is 30 miles away in Sydney. I was raped and molested as a child in the system, and as a result, I got a lot of... I fight for people. There's a show called Family Guy, where pretty much the whole thing is jokes about raping and incest and molestation. It's just a disgusting show, full of killing, but that's what we see today, is a bunch of killing, and you got your friends that think that it's cool certain people die certain ways in movies and all this other stuff, and it's creepy to live in a world like that. And you guys are so creepy like that. So, you just make jokes about these terrible things that happen, and it's not a joke. Now, the day I was released from there, of course I had charges against me for breaking their stuff, but I was fine with that. A guy named Wayne was the security guard there. He was in the military, and after the encounter there, he had to go over to Afghanistan, where he shot himself in the head. I was there on suicide watch, by the way. I wasn't trying to commit suicide, I was trying to make a police report. So when I got out, I had to walk from Scotts Bluff to Chapel, Nebraska. This is 2 days before the 4th of July, and I'd already gone to Martindale's. They were going to help me. Officer William Barr was there. He's the one that told me that Natalie's Craigslist ad was real. He used to be a police officer in Colorado. But Justine Martindale was going to help me out, and I went over there when she said to, and I basically hung out all day long. And finally, at the end of the night, she basically made a snide comment about how she's not going to help me. I'm like, well, you could have told me that instead of telling me to come over because you were going to help me. It was pretty messed up, and I had a pretty bad meltdown. And, you know, there were 4 different occasions during that week prior that I had encounters with the police because I was melting down. Oh my God, they didn't have to make it impossible. So when I got out, I got a ride part of the way from Scotts Bluff to Kimball, and then about 8 miles outside of Kimball, a state patrol officer gave me a ride almost to Potter, Nebraska, and then in Potter, I slept there in front of the fire hall, and they were just getting done with their 4th of July fireworks and all that. So I stayed out there for a little bit of the night, and then I was able to call 911 on that little flip phone that I had and get a Cheyenne officer came and picked me up, and he gave me a ride to the Dual County border. And I had to walk the last 8 miles from the border to Chapel, Nebraska. And I had been told that, and the whole time I'd been calling the state patrol and trying to get an officer to go out there with me to talk to those other officers because they needed to investigate what was going on. They told me that I had until 8 o'clock to get to the courthouse, or if I wanted to get my vehicle. I made it to the courthouse by 8 o'clock, and I also explained to State Patrolman Bill Burr here in Chapel, Nebraska, what was going on. And they took me to get my car, but they never took a report. I mean, this stuff needed to be investigated, and it needed to be documented. And there's so much of it that, like, there are so many police officers like that all over Colorado and Nebraska, where it needs to be documented, and I need to be able to have a permanent address to have that documentation sent to, as well as my medical records. I need a permanent address to do that. I need money to do that. I need an ID to get that money, and I need money to get an ID. So, the Dual County officers here, after that court with Ted Bollinger throwing the tantrum and those officers escorting me out so I couldn't file a report, I freaked out and threatened the president and threatened to kill the people who threatened to kill my friends and family, and I did that to try to force a court date. Well, they prevented me from going to those court dates. I was assaulted by officers after putting me on suicide watch. They kept doing that because I kept trying to make reports against their officers. So I was assaulted by officers in Boulder, Colorado, Longmont, Colorado, and Arapahoe County, where I was transferred. They wouldn't allow me in any of my court dates to show the evidence that I had. None of my public pretenders would look at it, and all of my money was just being spent going to court date to court date to court date. I'm like, hey, this has got to stop. You need to stop drugging me and have an officer sit down and look at this evidence. Obviously, I've been trying for 2 years to try to force you guys to take a look. The only place to show it is YouTube and Facebook. The police won't look. Not without someone going in with me. Not without someone making them do their jobs. And so while I was in Arapahoe County, I couldn't go to my other court dates for when I was assaulted at Clearview, when I was assaulted at the Boulder County Jail, all of that. I mean, these are things that the court dates in Nebraska for breaking the computer and for the way that I was driving my car in Chapel. Like, I'd tried calling 911. I'd tried going in with a friend. I'd tried everything else. There is literally no other way to get them to take a look at it, and they're literally going out of their way not to look at any of the evidence of why this is happening or the terrible things that people are doing, and it all needed to be documented. But I documented it. I saved as much documentation as I could. So they took away my disability money because I was incarcerated so long. And although I can't have failure to appear because I was incarcerated, my public pretender, her name was Pamela Carty, she wouldn't do her job in Arapahoe County at all. She kept on not showing up, just like all the rest of my public pretenders. Not showing up, but at least there it didn't cost me any money because I was incarcerated, right? I didn't have to go anywhere. So, the officers outright lied. A bunch of the people who were playing head games got to outright lie. I was never allowed to defend myself or speak up for myself in court. I was being assaulted in the jails. I mean, seriously, somebody needs to have an honest chance. You need to take a look at both sides instead of punishing someone as if they're this evil villain. I get that I'm not pretty. I get that I'm not good looking. But look where rich people spend their money. Pretty buildings like Notre Dame. Meanwhile, there's people starving to death all over the world. They're able to get more than enough to fix Notre Dame in less than 24 hours. So, because I was prevented from going to my court dates, here in Chapel they were dropped, but I had court dates in Scotts Bluff still for breaking those computers, and I had not gotten to make a report about being assaulted there. They allowed all of those people, those staff members in there,